Hello, everybody. Okay, I'm gonna give everyone just a couple minutes to hop in here. So we're just gonna do a little discussion. I posted a video about COVID-19, kind of my thoughts on what's essentially happening, not only for us as photographers, but kind of on a global level. So I'm going to give you guys just a minute to join up, and then we'll kind of begin the discussion in just a second. So Scott joined. What's up, Scott? Marlise Hartman, Brian Bash, nice. Emily Steele. What's up, guys? I didn't want to go into the studio today, so I'm going to record this just from home. In fact, from my bed, actually, which is, self-quarantine measures. Okay. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and just get started. Yeah, I said it was gonna be a minute, and that's really not a minute. But I wanted to give you guys kind of an idea of essentially what I think is happening in kind of the market and globally, and kind of just give you some thoughts as far as what I think you should be preparing for. Now, I'm going to start this out with the fact that, look, I have a CPA license, a background in professional accounting at Ernst & Young in audit. That's where I kind of started, was auditing financial statements, in addition to running a business for this many years and creating a couple different seven-figure businesses. So I feel like I have a bit of knowledge about economics and finance and whatnot, but at the same time, I'm going to be the first person to tell each of you that I'm not a professional advisor. I feel like my understanding of the market is pretty fundamental at best. And I tell you this because I genuinely feel that each of you needs to be very skeptical of the information that friends and other photographers might be giving you, not only right now, but over the next 6 to 12 months when it comes to investing, when it comes to everything. So here is the main thing. And as you guys have questions, as you guys have thoughts, I'd love for you guys just to chime in the comments, and I'll do my best to address them. If I don't know, I'm just going to tell you straight up, I don't know. And that's kind of beyond my pay grade. But right now, if you are in the space of events and event photography, you can expect some immediate pain. You probably have already been seeing it as clients have been canceling, as they've had events postponed. Now, I'm hoping you have contracts in place with everyone and understand that as far as our studio goes, we're not going to be doing refunds. That's not part of our contract to do refunds. But given that this is an event out of everybody's control, we are going to honor people's wishes to postpone and change dates, and we're not going to do it without penalty. I personally feel like that is the appropriate way to be handling this kind of a situation, given it really sucks for clients to be able to have to move their dates, to have to deal with all this kind of stuff when they just wanted to happily get married. I think if you're in the realm of portrait sessions, you're not going to feel nearly as much pain because people aren't really too scared right now of being in one-on-one situations with others. It's really the group and event atmosphere. Now, I want to port this over. So if you guys have questions on that, let me know. I want to port this conversation over to globally what I feel like is coming down the pipeline. So about 6 weeks ago, when this was kind of first starting to hit the news outside of China, that's when I started doing a little bit of research. I have done business in China for quite a while. I speak Cantonese and I speak Mandarin, which gives me the ability to be able to reach out to people that I know in China and ask what's going on the ground level. I apologize if my thing is shaking. I'm very vibrant with my hands. So when I did that, I found out from friends that own factories and from people there that really after Chinese New Year, nobody had gone back to work. And at first I thought this is odd, but then as I called one place after another, this was really the norm. That's a really kind of scary thing when you think about it from a global perspective, because everybody's supply chains at some point or another depends on the Chinese market, right? At some point we're depending on, some sort of raw material goods. We're depending on semiconductors. We're depending on something, whether it's an actual product that's coming out or just a piece and component of a product that's coming out. Every other economy is dependent on it. So it was 4 weeks ago when I called up my father, I called up my business partners, my family, and I said, look, we need to get out of the market. Get out of the market right now because something big is coming down the pipeline and nobody's seeing how this is going to affect global supply chains and how it's going to affect everybody down to the consumer level. And once that hits the news, there's going to be mass market panic and it's going to be a really bad time to hold anything in the market. So now that that's come and gone, and I wrote this in the article, right? And now that that's come and gone, there's something else that's going to be kind of happening. And I want to kind of explain what's happening as far as how I understand it and how I'm seeing it. So you have China, who went through this 2-month period of the virus, and they've kind of come and gone through it. And they've seen, at least from what they're telling us, the worst of it. I personally, despite my close ties to that community, I will be the first person to tell you that I'm highly skeptical of anything that the Chinese government says. If they're sharing negative news, usually I take that number and I multiply it by 5 to 10. Okay, just to give you guys a heads up on how I see news coming out of that country. Regardless though, let's say that they are on the mend. Well, every other country right now is currently going through the same process. And you guys know this. You guys know that Italy is, essentially 7 or 8 days ahead of us. We are behind. You know that Japan is already going through the brunt of it. Everybody knows this. What we're not necessarily thinking about is how this affects the global supply and demand kind of chain reaction, right? So as China is now being able to produce parts and their people are going back to work, Japan and other places that are actually sourcing those materials are now going through the same cycle. And it's going to be like, let's say, a 4 to 8 week cycle. Now the US, which is, and we're going to say that these other places are not only manufacturers, but they're also the consumer side, right? So the US manufactures, but also consumes. And now we're going to go through the same thing. Now, from a health crisis standpoint, I don't necessarily think that COVID-19 is the end of us. Yes, it's worse and more deadly than the flu, and it's something to be aware of, and it's something to just protect yourself against. But that's not the piece that I think is really going to dramatically affect us. It's the economic impact of this. Because now the countries that were manufacturing, the countries that were consuming, are now caught up in that same 2-month period. And we've honestly just begun that cycle. So for the next 2 months, imagine just slowing down the ability to complete products. And you guys can see this. And specifically in the photography industry, you see it with Canon and Sony and all these different companies that are basically going to be delaying the release of things because they don't have parts to manufacture. And so once their workforce leaves and being able to manufacture, they're going to get their parts and eventually their workforce is going to come back, right? And then they're going to actually produce the products that they're making. And once they are completed, they go to the consumer market and they're going to actually try to sell those. But now the consumer markets are tied up in this long-term mentality of a recession, okay? Not only are we going to be going through it for the next 2 months, but beyond that, nobody's going to be wanting to spend money on the latest camera and the latest gadgets and the latest everything. Who in their right minds right now would want to get on a cruise ship? Who wants to travel? The airline industries, the cruise industries, consumer electronics industries, every one of these is going to have this period where first supply is affected, then production is affected, then consumer demand is affected. And that's going to be a cycle that lasts 2 to 6 months. Okay, so we know this. We have this, and you may have thought to this point, but here's the other thing. With what's happened just right now, with all the things that have happened just in this moment right now, I can bet you that most every public company is going to be missing projections, not just for the quarter, not just for half the year. They're going to miss projections for all of 2020. You're talking major entertainment companies that are pushing off releases of movies for an entire year. You're talking every one of these companies that are all going to miss projections. So this is what I used to do at Ernst & Young, is I used to audit these companies' financial statements, okay? Now here's the way a financial statement would work, is at the end of a quarter, we would go into a period of audit. And once we have audited those financial numbers and we have looked at them and said, yes, these numbers are materially accurate, then the company would put those numbers out to the public. And that might be a month or so after that fiscal quarter. So the results of Q1 are not going to be known until Q2. And the results of Q2 are not going to be known until Q3. And likewise down the chain, right? So I want you guys to think forward as what's going to happen in the market when Q1 results come out in April-ish. When those results hit the market and everyone misses projections, what is the market going to do? When Q2 comes out and everyone misses projections, but now it's coming out in July or even after, okay? We're not finding out until Q3, Q2's numbers, and everyone misses projections. And Q4 and Q3 and then Q4. We get to the end of year numbers, and next year, everyone's reporting for 2020. We miss projections due to the coronavirus, due to all of these supply chain issues that we encountered. At that point, I want you to think of what the market is going to do and continue to do for the next year. Because what's happening currently is that the federal government, we have a president that's currently propping up, and it's not that he's doing anything that he shouldn't be doing, okay? We can all have our feelings about Trump and whoever he is as a person. I have no desire to get into that whatsoever. He's done, good things for the country. He's also been crazy. Let's not even worry about that. Don't even worry about who he is as a person. He's doing the right thing right now in terms of lowering interest rates. He's lowering interest rates down to this morning where it just hit 0%. This is what the federal government can do to prop up the economy, right? But it's artificial. He's lowering everything down, and they might even get to a place where they're making more. They're going to try everything they possibly can, but what they're doing is all artificial. Now, fast forward to Q3, Q4, even Q2, and all these companies are putting out negative information. There's no amount of artificial boosting of this economy that's going to change the fact that, in my opinion, we are heading straight towards a recession. It's going to be a significant one. I genuinely hope that I'm wrong. And again, I'm going to punctuate this with the fact that this is my opinion. This is where I'm standing. This is what I'm acting off of, is my knowledge of the economy and investing up until this point in my life. But logically, it makes no sense why the stock market is going to do anything but go down, because at each one of these points, so Friday, the market closed and there was all this positive news and change and all this kind of stuff. But then we had a news cycle over the weekend. And I told my close friends, look, over the weekend, there's going to be news cycles and it's going to be more of the same thing. We're going to get hit harder and harder and harder. And that's going to end up where Monday comes along and it's going to be a really bad week. More negative news, it's going to go down further. The Fed is going to try to do more to prop things up, and it's going to work to an extent. But then you get Q1 releases actually coming out and earnings statements coming out. And then you get Q2 earnings coming out, and then Q3, and then Q4. Now we might go, well, this is just the market, right? This is just the stock market that's affected. But that's not going to be how it works. Because if we are in a luxury business as photographers, well, a lot of our clients are going to be feeling the pain of retirement accounts and everything else that's going to be hit. For the event side, I would say that in general, the wedding side is somewhat recession resistant, okay? It's not recession proof, but it's recession resistant. It is not COVID-19 proof. When the government says stop holding gatherings, that's when events struggle. But eventually, the economy is just going to go into a recession, and wedding and event photographers are going to be fine. We might have to bring prices down a bit. We might have to make adjustments, run with a slimmer staff, but you're going to be fine. But in general, the amount of money that this economy, that the global economy is going to be spending on things that they don't need to be buying, it's going to diminish. So just be prepared for it. Just kind of understand that this is a good time to make sure that you have, I hope that you guys each have a war chest built up. I hope that you have your savings account, and I hope that you've kind of prepared for this. But this is in a nutshell what I'm seeing coming down the pipeline. So when people right now are saying, hey, now's a great time to jump into Bitcoin. First, I would never buy Bitcoin. I don't know, maybe just because I'm lame and I don't understand it, but it's just not a currency that I'm into. But when people are saying that this is a good time to jump into Bitcoin, it's really not, because it's going to keep going down. When people are saying it's a good time to jump into the market, it's really not. Things are going to keep going down. and the bottom is going to be somewhere probably 6 to 12 months out. It could be even longer. But I can tell you this, the federal interest rate is now at a place, like the government is now doing the exact same things that they were doing back in 2008. So these are the exact same measures that are being taken. And how much do we have to lose before we get back to 2008 numbers? Another 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% to get back to 2008. So in my opinion, that's how much the market can potentially drop before we start to see a bottom in this. Now, I hope genuinely that I'm completely wrong in this. And if I am, you guys can come back and say, Pi, you were doomsday person, you were completely wrong. And I'll say, you're right. I was overly cautious and whatnot. But I'm going to behave based on kind of what I know and what I see. And I would just advise you all to be smart and wise with your money. And so if that's really the main reason that I wanted to hop on here, is just because I feel like in these moments, people are going to be giving a lot of different investment advice. And I would honestly say just to stay safe right now. Stay safe, stay protected, be ready to diversify in the products that you offer, and be ready to kind of look for additional income and revenue streams. Know this, know that if there's a massive group of photographers or friends who are telling you that something is a good investment idea, most likely it's already too late. So by the time everybody is aware of, hey, you got to dump your money in, by the time everybody's talking about this is the time to jump into Amazon, that's the time that I'm generally selling Amazon. When everyone's like, oh man, that Tesla stock is doing real good, that's when I'm exiting Tesla. It's a market indicator when everybody's doing something that particular thing is being propped up and being pushed into a bubble. Okay, so anyway, these are some basic thoughts and advice. And throughout this entire thing, I've said it multiple times, I'm going to say it again. This is just my opinions. This is based on my understanding of the economy, of finance, of investing, which is significant, but I'll also tell you that I'm not a professional. And be safe, protect yourselves. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I do see some, so let me just go and check here. Okay. Brittany says, so this is or isn't the time to switch to mirrorless. Sorry, just gonna, yeah. You know, it's always a good time to switch to mirrorless. It should be. OnlyFans dual card slots. Okay, I'm gonna apply for a business line of credit. Yes. What I would say is it's a great time to apply for a line of credit. If you got a good place to put money in terms of like, and honestly for me, the best place to put money in an economy like this is myself. I'm gonna put money into my own education, into my own business ideas, into my own everything, because those are the things that I can control, right? So Tanya said, you know, I'm going to apply for a business line of credit. Yes, the rates are going to be incredibly low. Apply for that line of credit. What I would say though, is just avoid significant investments or purchases that are outside of yourself, right? So if you got a great business idea, you got a great concept, this could be a wonderful time to launch well thought out businesses. We launched Lynn & Jersey Photography at the beginning of the 2008 recession, okay? So we were in the midst of it when we launched, and you guys know where it's at, you know, and what it's done. For well thought out businesses, it's wonderful. What I would caution you against is when this whole thing happened, I had an offer in on a home. Why? Well, interest rates kept dropping, and it was decent. I actually pulled that offer when I pulled everything that I had from the market and converted everything to cash. And the reason is because over the next year or so, the housing market, I do feel, is going to be dramatically affected as well. Now, the interest rates are good, but it also means that you're going to be buying large, you know, purchases that are likely going to go down in value as people just don't have the money to be buying real estate, or they want to be buying it for lower amounts. Those are just my thoughts. Is it's a great time to invest in yourself. I would be very careful. You know, if you find a great deal in real estate, if you find a great deal on something to invest in, by all means, do your due diligence and go for it. But be careful. Okay. Scott says, personal finance wise, would you adjust where your 401ks are invested? So all I did with my investment accounts is just convert everything to money markets. So I just convert everything basically back to cash, but they're still in there. So I'm not withdrawing anything. I'm just converting it out of any sort of anything in a market, basically. Bonds would be the first place that I would look if I wanted something safe and to keep something, in the market. But again, I feel like from what I understand, the safest place is converting things back to cash at the moment. Okay. If we've been wanting to connect with new vendors to work with, when do you think is a good time to reach out, especially planners and venues? So I honestly think now is a great time to start reaching out and planning things. So today I actually had a photo shoot with a local gym, and we planned this photo shoot for a little while. But this photo shoot was to help them to kind of build their own. It's for my jiu-jitsu gym that I practice at. So we did their portraits and we did all these different things, and we planned to make some content out of it. And I didn't charge them for it. We did kind of like a little trade thing. And what I want to do at these moments is really work on building those relationships and helping them, because they're going to be hurting tremendously. And what they really need when they get back up and running is content. They need to be able to post. They need to be able to resume life as it should be, right? So this is a great time to reach out. And in this downtime, I don't think there's really a problem in forming small groups to go in and do little shoots. Maintain your social distances, maintain like just be safe. Obviously you want to tell people if you're experiencing any symptoms of anything whatsoever, just don't come or reschedule or whatnot. But I'm not really buying into the fear of like, this is like a world killer type thing. Like this is a flu, it's a bad flu. It's worse than typical strains that we felt and seen. But at the same time, you can practice, just being smart and go about beginning to build these relationships. Todd Graham, how do you limit the damage as a wedding photographer with a team of shooters like yourself? So Todd, this is one of those things that we're covering on a day-to-day basis. We don't yet know. We have 40 events between March and April, right? We've probably already experienced 8 to 10 of those postponing. Some of them have carried on as planned. For those that are shooting, like we had a team go out, we're advising them just to maintain your distances. The hardest part is really the dance floor. And for the dance floor, I say, try and keep your distance as best as possible. Take frequent breaks to wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, avoid touching your face, those kind of things. The masks we have seen from, a lot of people have come on and said, unless you're wearing an N95, it's not going to do much, right? So just understand that there's some things that are more effective, some things that are really not that effective, that are really being kind of dramatized by news and everything like that. But as far as you limiting the damage, I don't know, because I don't know what the extent of this damage could be. If we end up having all 40 of our events postponed, well, the real thing is to make sure that your clients understand that, hey, it's non-refundable, but we will reschedule. What we're doing is we're trying to encourage our clients to reschedule within 2020 so it doesn't eat into our availability for 2021. If they want to push it out to 2021, we would highly recommend, and even for 2020, recommend that they choose weekdays, okay? So if they choose weekdays, it's likely that they're going to get a deal on all their vendors. So this is a great time to suggest something that's not only beneficial for you, but also for your clients. Hey, venues, hotels, everybody's going to give you a better deal, most likely, if you switch to a weekday. You're going to have availability. Most people can get a day off and they can come anyway. So that's going to be one of those things that we use to kind of mitigate some of this. But if we get 40 cancellations, yeah, you're going to have to start working with your teams and saying, look, guys, we have to do, start doing kind of like controlled layoffs. We have to start, working back into full swing of things over time, but everybody's going to have a period where they're going to have a loss of income. Okay. Adam says, hang in there. Likewise, brother. Thanks for your important advice. Take your advice, try to work on some of the other things, bigger, better, and stronger. Yeah, this is, such a great time. And I so hesitate to like say, oh, buy our education, because like, I don't want to be the person that like uses any type of horrible thing like this to market anything. But genuinely, this is what I'm spending my time on, is I'm spending my time on investing in my own businesses. I'm spending my time on reading books, on getting more audibles. I'm buying the things that I know. I mean, education, when you compare it to the cost of, your gear, is nothing. These are things that will for sure guarantee a payback. And those are the things that I'm kind of, putting my time and my effort into. So that just take it for what that is. Yes, we have talked to our team about how they might be affected. We're hoping that it doesn't get there. We're preparing for the worst, kind of hoping for the best type scenario. Joel, God bless us all. Yes, agreed. We all need that. Okay, Wes, I randomly found a 24-pack of N95 mask in my basement. Wes, I would say to take those to first responders, they desperately need those right now. And I think, well, all the hoarders have ended up getting quite a few of them. So yeah, I mean, I would highly suggest you check in with your local first responders, your hospitals, and see if they need those masks. That might be a really great way to put those to use. I have friends that are nurses and doctors, and they're in trouble right now. And when the frontline people get sick, that's like the worst thing. Like, how do you even deal with this when they're understaffed, overworked, and then they start losing people due to the sickness? It's going to be brutal. But anyway, and besides, you can't go to a wedding wearing an N95. You're going to look like it's like the end of the world, dude. You know what I'm saying? How important will maximizing sales be per client while number of events drop by maybe 20%? Brady says, what would you recommend? This is going to be tricky. I genuinely feel like maximizing revenue per client in a recession is going to be tough. This goes back to building packages that have the products that you want to sell already in them. And it also goes to, when we teach in the sales course and we teach kind of sales and sales psychology and all those kind of things, I say one huge thing is remember that if you use these techniques to get into somebody's head and pressure sale them into something that they can't afford, that they might not end up wanting, that's manipulation. And I would highly say, like, avoid that place. Avoid, getting to the point where we get so desperate to maximize revenue that we end up manipulating our clients into buying things that they might not want or might not be able to afford, is the only general advice I would give. Otherwise, reference that course. Make sure that you're building your albums, your products into your packages if you want people to be buying them. Otherwise, it just ends up being like if albums are only offered in the higher package, it's kind of the first thing they think that they don't really need, right? Oh, I'll just go with the middle package where I don't need to get those things anyway. So build your albums into your baseline. Okay, Joel, glad to meet you at WPI as well. Yeah, honestly, so we met at WPI and you said we are healthy, so no exposure from WPI. I don't know if I believe that. So what I think and what experts are actually coming out with right now is they're saying that this thing has been around for a while and we're just kind of beginning to test for it, which doesn't mean that we haven't already had it. So here's the deal. I'm going to tell you this. 2 months ago, when my girlfriend took my kids up to Mammoth, there was a bunch of Chinese tourists there who were sick. And my children and my girlfriend got sick. They came back and got me sick. It was the worst case of the flu I think I've had, and it lasted about a week, and it matched every single symptom of COVID-19. I don't know if I had it. I don't know if we had it. We got through it and we're over it, and it lasted a week, and who knows if it was just a regular strain and it was something kind of more intense than regular, or who knows if it was COVID-19. What I do know is that the numbers that are being reported are dramatically understated, because those are just cases that are actually being tested based on a limited number of test kits. So this thing could have been going around for the last 3 months and nobody actually knows about it because it was never tested in the first place. So who knows where the exposure is coming from? All we can do now is kind of limit ongoing exposure and say, if you're feeling anything, stay inside, do what you got to do. In terms of like social distancing, and stay safe at this point. And that's exactly what we're doing. All of us are fine. We're good. We want to keep it that way. So we're still practicing social distancing and all the things that are being recommended. But who knows, man? Who knows how long this thing's been out? Who knows how many of us have already had it? It's crazy stuff. Okay, I'm not at all stock savvy, but I understand the message of bracing yourself for the worst and to start being creative in other ways. Yes, Kat. Brittany, I'll market if you don't get premium. Brittany, I'll market if you don't get premium. You can watch all the videos when you're quarantined. Great investment. That's funny. Thanks, Brittany. I appreciate you. Kat, and watch the rest of the SRL premium vids. Appreciate you guys. Have you had any cases of cancellation that's been non-genuine? And by the way, I just had a bunch of spicy food, so my nose is running. Okay, just hold on. Just relax. Calm yourselves. Have you had any case of cancellation been non-genuine? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think we've had any that have been non-genuine, but honestly, that's why you have your contract in the first place. Regardless of whether it's genuine or not, you shouldn't be giving refunds for this, because it is going to tank your business. And what we want to do, your clients need to get married anyway. They need to get married. This is a service that they still need. Ask them just to move it forward. So I don't see it necessarily mattering whether they're genuine or not. You should be protected from clauses like that. Yeah, Adam says contract. Okay. Wes is another props. Thanks, buddy. Have you had any shooters that didn't want to shoot wedding under the given circumstance? Yes, we've had concerns, Todd. So the biggest thing that you can do with the concerns that come up is really just tell them really what it is. You know, like the biggest problem is the economic repercussions of this virus are very, very real. This is, again, my opinion. The economic repercussions are massive. They're very real. But the actual danger of the virus itself, I think a lot of experts would agree that that part is being very much overstated and inflated by media, right? And the other thing about it is that if you think about this, we honestly can't know how dangerous or deadly this flu is until several years down the road when everybody's been tested for it. And then we discover and we go, holy piss, you know what? 10 million people actually had this thing. They just didn't even know about it or get tested. And this was the actual mortality rate. So we can only base a mortality rate right now of 3% or whatever it is off of the number of people that are known and tested, and off of the limited amount of tests that are being done, because they're just saying, like, right now, if you call the hospital right now and you have a cold or you just feel like you have a runny nose or cough, they'll be like, don't come in. Like we don't think, here's the, if it's bad, come in. But like, if you just have a runny nose and you call them up, they'll be like, yeah, we don't have that many kits. You're probably fine. Just stay home. So honestly, it's helping your shooters to get to the understanding that, you know, we need to be safe, and there's ways that you can shoot safely and you can really safeguard yourself. And for most of us, this is going to pass like a flu. If you need to shoot, like in the circumstance, shoot, and then come home and stay at home for a few days and make sure that you're good and solid and that you don't have any symptoms or anything. And then, you know, like that is what I would do in this situation to help people understand. And I'm in that boat too. I did a shoot today that I wasn't going to postpone or cancel, but at the shoot today, there's probably 50 people at the gym that were in this shoot. And I just kind of, like, anytime they wanted a handshake, I just go, oh, social distance, like, kind of make a joke out of it and poke fun, you know, but keep your distances. And I was using hand sanitizers throughout the whole thing. If you don't have it, just go stop and wash your hands, you know. Yeah, Joel, I don't, like, again, I don't want to say that we've already survived it, that we've already had it. But what I'm saying is we're not going to know. Nobody's going to know, you know, what this actually was, when it actually started. And most likely this was already in the States months before anybody actually thought and knew about it. It's just that now it's actually being tested, and now they're going to see those numbers go up. So that's what's scary, and that's what the media is kind of like doing about this is, of course, every day those numbers are going to keep going up because now they're actually testing for it. It doesn't mean that it hasn't been here for the last 3-4 months, okay? So just think of all the people that have traveled from China over the past 3 months before anybody started saying, oh, we're going to do travel restrictions and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's see. Wes, I appreciate that, brother. Good time to start a YouTube channel or podcast while everyone is staying at home. I don't know, Brady. It could be, man. You could be seeing an opportunity in here. Wes says, is Patrick Hall watching this? I don't know. I don't know if Patrick is watching this. I saw a lead pop in for a minute. I missed the first part of the video. Can you elaborate on your guesstimated 30%, 70%? So Tina, I think this video will be posted in the, you'll be able to watch the whole thing. I would say go back and check that out just so I don't have to kind of like reiterate, because it was a fairly long explanation. But what I'm seeing happen is going to be a chain reaction of supply demand issues that are going to basically occur throughout the globe. Like every industry is going to be feeling it. Everyone's going to feel the repercussions. And so the Fed has dropped the interest rate back to 2008 levels. They're doing all the same things that they were doing back in 2000. I don't even know if it hit 0%. It probably did actually in 2008. But they're literally throwing everything at the wall to try and stave off a recession. The problem is it's not really going to work because the supply chain has already had a massive disruption. And now there's going to be a production disruption. And now after that, there's going to be a consumer disruption. And then what you're going to see is all the quarterly reports coming out and everybody missing earnings. In Q1, they're going to miss earnings. In Q2, they're going to miss earnings. In Q3, and it's going to further drive down the overall market and this pessimism for quite a while. So that's the ongoing issue, Tina, that we're kind of dealing with. And let's see, they're pumping the market, trying to buy confidence, promising no loss of paychecks. I don't know who's promising no loss of paychecks. But as far as recovery goes, I think we're in for the long haul. And this is what I would say. If you guys want to hold on to your stocks, hold on to them. I'm not going to tell you not to. I'm just going to tell you my thoughts is that they're going to keep, we're going to go down for a while. I will tell you, if you're going to hold on to anything, be prepared to go long. And I'm saying very long. Like, we're talking, I would guess 2-3 years before we start seeing, those numbers come back, maybe up to 5 years to get to a full recovery. Like, I would say you need to be prepared for those types of realities, is to go real long. Okay, Todd, appreciate you taking the time to answer my dissertation of questions. Of course, man. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. So I don't know who's promising no loss of paychecks. Tina, can you remark on where you saw that? What I think might need to happen is the federal government might need to step in and say they might need to offer aid to small businesses. So for small businesses that are still having to, like, for example, gyms, like, I can't think of, if there's one place to get sick, like, more than anything else, it's at a gym, especially at places like jiu-jitsu gyms and martial art gyms, where you're literally in contact with somebody else. You're sweating on each other. And let alone every other gym where you're using the same equipment and you're sweating on, like, gyms are going to have, so just imagine all these places. None of these places, they run on very thin margins. They can't afford to go 2, 3, 4 months without any income or without people just being afraid to go back to them. So the federal government needs to at some point step in and say, for small businesses, we're going to offer this type of a federal aid or support or something. We're going to say, hey, we'll give you guys a loan so that you can pay your debtors, or we're going to do something to help. That is going to dramatically help. But as far as promising no loss of paychecks, I just don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's realistic, and I think everyone's going to suffer a loss of income in this. Okay, Annie says, as a family photographer, I've stopped advertising completely. Do you think people will still want family portraits, or do I just want to isolate? Annie, don't stop advertising. I mean, maybe you take a 2-week break while this is at its peak, but don't do the things that are going to make you money in the future. Don't stop doing the things that are going to be making you money in the future. You need to keep advertising. Keep advertising. You need to keep shooting. Keep shooting. Families and small groups and portraits, people are generally much less fearful of that. And this might even be a time, like, wait for this to pass a little bit and then offer some sort of spring offer to get people back in and get people kind of excited to get, portraits again. Small groups and small portrait sessions, headshots, celebrity portraits, individual portraits, boudoir, all these different things, they shouldn't be nearly as affected right now as the events industry, where they're just canceling events. But whatever each of you do, I would say, don't stop doing the things that are going to be making you money. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm still putting time into our own business. We're still marketing. We're still doing all those things. I'm still putting time into my own education, my own investment. Like these are all the things that have always made me money. These are all the things that I'm going to continue to do no matter what situation we're in. So don't just stop. Whatever you do, don't just stop what you're doing. Let's see. Maybe one wise thing would be to consider stopping paid advertising or stop paying for advertising for at least the next few weeks. Because right now, and we've seen this from our own website, from srlounge.com, like, the media is so engaging in this topic that everybody is just paying attention to CNN.com and what the media has to say about COVID-19. And right now we're watching that traffic on SR Lounge is dropping during this time. And it's expected, because this is not like what gear is coming out is not a pressing concern. So it might be wise to hold off on paid advertising for the next few weeks while the everyone's attention is going from media and all those different things, because people just might not see things. Okay. I just watched There Should Be Old People in Your Portfolio video right before this. Okay, cool. I'm not sure which one. There should be old people in your portfolio. Okay. Pence mentioned that today. Okay, if we didn't convert our 401k before last week, should we do it next week or money market? I'm not completely understanding. Denise, so I'm just going to tell you my thought is that we are on this downward trend and it's going to continue that way for a while. I want to avoid telling anybody what to do with your money, what to do with your 401ks. I've kind of mentioned what I've done. I held on to one stock. My father actually convinced me to hold on. He's a really good investor. And we were holding on to some small position in Exxon. And I told my dad, I think this is going to get punished, like, hard. And he's like, just go long on it, stay in it, and that's fine. So I stayed in it, and I didn't have, it wasn't a ton. It was $25,000, but it dropped. I lost like $10,000 over the last week. And foreseeing that like there's no end in sight, I sold it at like 42, and now it's down to 37. So what I would say is you either have to at some point stop your loss or be prepared to go very long. So if it's a 401k, you're going to go long. Like if you choose to keep the money in there, just go long. Don't look at it, don't touch it, but don't go in between these two things, right? Don't go 2 months down the road and then be like, I'm going to sell it now. You either get out with a loss and don't look back, or you stay in it and don't look back. Don't go 1 month down the road and then be like, maybe I should do it now. The people that wait and they kind of straddle the line between these two decisions. The people that wait and sell in between these 2 points are the ones that are going to be hurting the most. So if you can, at this point, if you can sit on it, I might suggest just sitting on it and be prepared to weather it out, and just don't look. Don't look at it for the next 3 to 5 years. If that is one of those things that you're like, I just can't do that, then get out with the loss that you have or with wherever you're at now, and look to get back in, at some point when things kind of settle. But I want that to be your kind of call, your decision. I want to just, tell you my thoughts on it. Okay. Brady, what are your thoughts on SBA loans as aid? I have plenty of money saved, but for others, seems like poor time to be borrowing money. Would you advise borrow or downsize if push comes to shove? Honestly, Brady, I'm generally a person that plays things on the safe side. So I usually don't look for loans unless I just know, like I know for a certainty I've got a great business, a great product, and I know it's going to work. And even then I try to bootstrap it. So personally, I would look more towards controlling expenses, controlling outgoing, cash flows, controlling all those things, downsizing as necessary until push comes to shove. And even then, I struggle with the whole idea of borrowing money and putting it back into a business that's not making money right now. If you have a genius business plan and you need to borrow something then it's a great time to borrow. You know what I mean? Like if you have that thing, then it's a great time. But that is a huge and risky proposition in and of itself. To borrow money to do a new venture is a big thing. So kind of going it with that side. As far as where I am typically at, it's really more of like bootstrapping it and controlling expenses and potentially downsizing and going to that point. If necessary, I'll put money into something on my own. But my last case is to go out and borrow money. Let's see. Pi, thank you for the wise word. What I'm thinking is, will people even want to do family sessions when they may be in for a tighter budget with less cash flow? Should we drop our pricing? A little weird to promote family sessions or smaller sessions when photography is more luxury than a need. Yes, Hedva. But here's the thing: is that we've always said in all of our business training, we've said position yourself as a luxury product. Why? Because as a luxury product, people that are spending, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on photographs, generally are the type of people that, yes, they're going to feel the recession like all of us, but they're also going to be somewhat recession resistant because they have the jobs and the high paying income to somewhat, stave off that side. So serving the luxury market is the safest place to be in a recession. That being said, you may need to offer some promotions and some specials to kind of encourage and to get people in and to get people spending. But the people that have priced their model on, and this is I never want to be the person who says I told you so, but that's literally what I'm saying. No, this is why in our entire business course we say do not be the photography studio that is pricing a product to be a value, that's pricing a commodity, that's trying to compete on price, because everybody that has been worried about price is now the exact people that are not going to have any money to spend on anything whatsoever. So as we go through the business courses, we have talked constantly about building your product, making it designed for a luxury clientele, creating something that's good enough for a luxury clientele, and then marketing and promoting to that audience, because even in a recession, you still have an audience. Whereas for everybody else, if you were worried about people bargain shopping before, if you were worried about people wanting deals before, those same clients are going to press you 10 times harder than ever before. So that's where I would say to kind of place yourself in your business. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. Pence said they are covering sick leave for 2 weeks. Yeah, that's very different, Tina. And that's, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the federal government does in terms of all the aid that they have to offer. Annie said in regards to HEDVAs, I'm wondering that same thing too, where people welcome shoots as they're reminded that this is most. Yes, I think that, honestly, I wouldn't sell education and I wouldn't teach photographers to do this unless I truly believed that photography had value. I wouldn't have started a business in this area with my partners, Justin and Chris, unless we believe that there was a value to this product. There is a very tangible value to the service of photography. You need to make sure that you believe that and then position yourselves for the clients that, yes, they're going to be affected, but they're not the group of us that are going to be just struggling to pay the bills. Those people are like, they've been the one, and I don't think there's tons of you that are in that arena, but the people that are in that arena are the event photographers who are like, yeah, I'll shoot your wedding for $1,500, for $2,000. Person down the road wants to charge $4 or $5. Yeah, I'll do it for $1,500. Like those are the people that are going to be struggling the most, because the people that wanted cheap services, they're not going to have the money for any services, if that makes sense. Not anything like this. They're going to go out and buy Insta cameras and pop them on the tables of their events and just deal with people taking pictures on their iPhones and the Instax cameras. Okay. So Anastasia says, don't look until you're close to retirement. That is very wise advice. Like if you're going to go long, this is one of those periods of time, just don't look. Just don't look. You decided to go long, you're going to go all in. So go long. Denise said, thank you. Okay. Lorene said, will camera prices go down? Hey, that could be one positive benefit, is camera prices go down. Maybe we'll see Canon launch the R5 and they'll be like, you know what? It's a 2-for-1 special. You guys buy one, get one free. Like, heck yeah. I don't think that's ever gonna happen, but who knows? Okay, I'm hoping that this was helpful for everyone. If there's any additional questions, I'm gonna give you guys just a few seconds to pop those in now. Otherwise, yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Please, please, please keep your guys selves safe and protected. I don't think this is a time to go and do runs on the grocery stores or do anything like that. I feel like we're going to be fine in terms of food. It's always a wise idea to make sure that you have, anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks of just dry canned goods in your food storage, like in your pantry, so that you have things. And I would also say keep the drugs that you need on hand. Like I'll tell you, sometimes I get tension headaches. Excedrin is sold out everywhere right now. Fortunately, I have Excedrin, downstairs. I have an unopened bottle of it. So those kind of things, I think there's going to be a little bit of supply and shortages on these types of things, like the regular over-counter stuff that we would just go to the store and grab. So just keep those types of things on hand. Don't panic. Don't worry. We're all in this, together. Scott Magical, he's really hammering the whole only the cameras with one card slot thing. There's going to be sales on cameras with one card slots. That's so funny. All right, let's see. Medea said, I do various events. I had 2 clients who were supposed to cover their baby shower, just 2 hours. They switched to do maternity shoots for no additional cost. Yeah, that's a great thing too. Medea brings up a really great idea and point, is a lot of clients might not want to have their event. Like they might do a baby shower. They might be doing like, first baby type stuff. They might have paid you for their event. And they don't want to do the event anymore just out of safety reasons. That doesn't mean that you can't go back and say, hey, why don't we do a styled shoot like next week or maybe in a couple weeks when all this blows over? Let's do a styled shoot. Let's go out and do something else. Let's do something fun. And then we'll book the event again when you guys are ready. So use their deposit towards something else. Offering a different service that's also wanted is a great thing, especially when the event itself, they still want family portraits, they still want newborn, they still want baby pictures. When they still want that stuff, there's a really great opportunity just to transition it into a different product. But when you do that kind of stuff, I would highly suggest getting on the phone with your clients and talk to them over the phone. It's just a more personalized experience. If you have a broad generalized statement that you want to make to all of your clients and say, hey, this is going to be our policy on this, then that's fine to send that out via email. But don't get into in-depth conversations about what you can and you can't do via email, just because there can be a lot of misunderstandings. People can't really understand and read your tone from that. So hop on the phone with them whenever you're going to discuss anything beyond simply standard measures type stuff. Anastasia, it's the best time to watch us around to catch up on premium. Yep. I'm catching up on a lot of education myself. Appreciate that. I'm praying for you all. Thanks, Denise. Emily Steele, thank you, Pi. Offer luxury service, wedding boudoir, and super scared. This made me feel a lot better. Yeah, I think once we get through this, we're going to be okay. Just be prepared. 2020 is going to be a rough year for everybody all around. Probably some of it's going to carry into 2021, but we're going to get through it, and things are going to pick up, and we'll be fine again. All right, guys. Have a wonderful and safe rest of your weekend. Well, we're all going to be online quite a bit, so we have plenty of awesome groups you guys can join. They're completely free. The Master Lighting, if you guys want to work on lighting techniques, post things. I'm going to do my best to chime in on each of these groups. We have a Lightroom group. We have this business group, obviously, and then we have also Master Wedding and Portrait group. Each of them are run by amazing SR Lounge ambassadors. We've got Trevor, Jared, and Jason, along with their teams of ambassadors. So it's just nice to be among communities that, everyone's kind of going through the same thing right now, and we're all online. So why not, be online together? And Scott says, what education is Pi watching? I honestly have a library of tons of stuff. So one of the things that I've been wanting to do more of recently was I want to take my retouching game to the next level. So I feel like I'm decent at retouching, but when I look at like Pratik and my friend Danny Diamond and stuff, I'm always like, man, I could be that much better at retouching and these kind of skills. So I actually want to take this time to personally lock in on that. So I remember I had bought actually both their courses, and they've been sitting in my library for a little bit. So I was going to go and watch their courses. That's on my to-dos. I have 3 different Audibles that I just bought. Some of them are fiction, actually a lot more Audibles. I have like 15 books in my Audible. Let me get my phone. Hold on. Okay. So my aunt just released, I don't know if she's my relative. I'm going to say relative because she's like my mom's cousin. I don't do this whole like relationship management stuff. I have a relative. Let's just call her an auntie. I have an auntie. She just put out a new book in her series. So she's a fiction novelist, and her latest one was Dark Corners of the Night, and it was just picked up as an Amazon series. It was optioned as an Amazon series. So I'm like, I've already read her first book. It was amazing. Her name is Meg Gardner, if anyone wants to check it out. But her stuff is amazing. And I'm like, I can't wait to go listen to Meg's new books. As far as my library goes, so I have Dark Corners of the Night. So Brady, you mentioned podcasting. I've been wanting to start a podcast for actually quite a while. So I've been learning and researching about it. So I've been actually listening to Profitable Podcasting. That's one book that I've really been enjoying. I also wrote a book. So I've been spending the last 2-3 years, I wrote a book on relationships, and it's actually something I'm going to do completely outside of weddings. And so I've been reading books on like, self-publishing and how to publish and kind of all that stuff, like Breaking Orbit. There's Hit Refresh is another cool one, Ultra Learning. Anyway, maybe I'll start a thread up and we can all share kind of the stuff that we're watching, the stuff that we're listening to, all the books that we're reading, any cool new Netflix specials, whatever you guys are watching on SR Lounge, or any other cool not premium, any other cool education that you guys find. So hopefully that gives you guys some ideas, and yeah, I'll start up a new thread, and we'll do a little COVID-19 education thread, education and binge watching thread. All right, guys, have a wonderful Sunday, and I'll see you guys constantly throughout the community. See y'all.